All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody had an awesome week. So I've had kind of a breakthrough. The awesome part about life is you never stop learning. Always question everything. Always, evolving and just trying to find better ways to do everything in life. Which kind of leads me to today's videos because I've decided to switch up my oil change routine. I kind of thought I had it figured out and I always went by the old adage of quality doesn't cost, it pays. So I kind of figured that, buy something nice and you take care of it, take care of the machinery, and it'll take care of you. Which kind of led me to believe that, my oil, which is like the blood of your engine, is something I've always kind of taken seriously because it's very, very crucial for your engine to have good oil, plenty of it. I've always just seen it as a good decision because if you're going to be running the engine hard, I just believe it pays dividends to invest in the engine. And to be honest with you, I've came across a couple videos which made me change my mind. One sparked the, kind of the idea, the question in my mind. And then the other kind of was like, A to B to C to, as far as me having like revelations as far as like the reasoning behind it. I made a video a while back using, I'm not going to drop any manufacturer's names, but the oil I've been using, you can push duration 25,000 miles. That's a lot. That's a long time. Now that's more than I drive in a year, but I'm still, pushing it out, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 miles per year. So in retrospect, I think that this is going to be the way to go moving forward in the future. So, taking that 10,000 miles or whatever I drive in a year, I was only changing oil once. I would wait till the engine light came on, or I'm sorry, not the engine light, but the maintenance light came on for the oil change. And then I would just spin on a new filter, top the oil off and keep going. I'd had lots of data that shows there's still a lot of detergents, a lot of friction modifiers, lubricity, everything was still in tip-top shape. But I overlooked one thing, and this one thing was kind of like a domino effect that led me to believe a lot of different things. So in order to get this kicked off here, I will just say I'm gonna give a shout out to Corey over at the channel LSX Motorsports. He's been on the channel quite a bit, especially with the live streams. Usually he's in the comment section, so really smart guy. I always say you have something to learn from everybody. And if I've found out through life that if you just approach things with an open mind, it's incredible what you can learn and discover in life. So anyways, I was watching and I will just let you, I'm going to leave links to everything below. So he was making kind of just like a in general, first time DIYer for kind of helping people to do an oil change. Corey, the reasonings that he came up with doing his oil change, one of them sparked an idea, kind of made me question myself as far as my own maintenance strategies. So we'll go ahead and I'm only gonna, I'll play it for just a little bit here and I'll stop it when I need to.
So they can afford to keep their prices fairly low. But the number one advantage for changing your own oil is if you change your own oil, chances are you'll change it more often. And you also get to choose what oil you use. Now I always have used Mobil 1 synthetic. Is it better than the rest? Probably not. In my own personal opinion, I think they're all about the same.
I'll stop right there. Now, here's my thing, and I'll get back in your face. Mobil 1 to me is a medium grade, overhyped, overmarketed oil. Flat out bar none. And I know that's going to stomp on a lot of feelings, but there's been a lot of data to show it's just an okay oil. He's gonna mention here in just a little bit, but there's data, physical data, to back that up. So let's keep going here. Let's see what Corey's got to say.
And my opinion on synthetic oil versus conventional motor oil, I'm not convinced that synthetic oil is better if you're changing the oil often enough. I honestly think you get away with just using conventional oil and save some money, but I'm not going to say for sure because I don't know, and that's why I still use synthetic. But a good place to find out if you're unsure and you'd like to save some money, Project Farm, I believe the channel's called. He's tested all kinds of oil, and maybe you can get by with just conventional oil if you change it all.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there. Synthetic. Okay, so there was quite a bit there. There was quite a bit there as far as like Mobile One, synthetic versus conventional, frequency of changed, and Project Farm. Now, Project Farm is another channel. Shout out. I will give a massive shout out because that was one of the series that he did as far as that kind of pushed me from using Royal Purple Redline to switching over to AMSOIL. So I will say that there is a significant difference, and you can tell, especially if you're running this in an air-cooled engine, you can tell a big difference between synthetic and conventional. Now, as far as like the type of synthetic, I really think that they're really close, but that's just me. That's something that's gonna have to stand the test of time to prove. Also, every engine's different. There's so many variables and so many factors that play into this. You can go round and round and discuss this for, man, who knows how long. But anyways, the simple fact of frequency changed kind of struck me, because here's the thing with oil and what I've noticed with engine oil and the way it's used in your engine. It's a lot of engines, I know this, but I'm gonna say if you drive a lot of highway miles, your engine in the combustion chamber, once it's burned the fuel and it's found that perfect ratio, that stoichio, however you want to pronounce it, the stoichio ratio is an absolute perfect complete burn with how many ever parts of fuel to how many ever parts of air. And once that fuel is burned down to its most basic, simplest compound, it's gonna be carbon, and that's what turns your engine oil black. Now does volume, as far as like total capacity of how many quarts your car hold, yeah, that's gonna play a factor. Whether you're going highway miles, because you can't just say 1 mile is the same as, you know, if you're going city miles 10, 15, 20 miles an hour versus highway miles at 70, 75 miles an hour. That's two different things. And I've seen a lot of people kind of going by just the color of the oil. They'll pull the dipstick. If it's black, time to change it. If it's still, you know, it's kind of got that amber tint to it, that orangish, amber color, then they run it longer until the oil is completely saturated with carbon. I came across another video just the other day, and I was like, starting to connect the dots here. So let's get over, and this is a brand new channel, and I will give them a shout out. It is by the Automotive Press, and I will say this, that I'm terrible with names. I'm absolutely terrible with names, but anybody that knows me in real life, they will know that I do my best, but man, I'm just awful with names. And I will let them introduce themselves here.
Hello everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. I am with the legend. Do you recognize this person? He is the Nissan GTR engine production leader, best known for producing the most amazing engine in the world. And his name is Takumi Kurosawa. You would know him because he was one who started the whole trend to do with Takumi engines, or engine made for Nissan GTR. He's retired now. He has his own business, consulting and working with other manufacturers or other people to advise on how to build the best engine in the world. Now, we're here in a restaurant, so I apologize for a bit of a sound. But I wanted to ask him the most important question that many of you guys asked about, which is how often to change the engine oil in your car.
Okay, so let me just explain the relevance here. The relevance is an engine is an air pump. and pretty much they're all really coming down to the same amount of tolerances and clearances anymore as far as like being engineered in specifications. So I'm saying that this, even though it's JDM and it's a GTR engine, the premise and the theory is the same across the board. It's still an internal combustion engine, and it still functions and works in the same way using the same components. You know, you can burn E85 through it, you can burn 91 through it. Definitely something to learn from this guy, and he's going to take the time to kind of give us his opinion as far as to how often you should change oil in your car. Let's keep listening here. Let's see it.
I did a short video on that, and there were so many comments and questions because many of you guys said his advice, which is to change every 3,000 miles. Every 3,000 miles is the best. You said that's not possible because it costs too much money, it's too frequent. But he said, here's one way to look at it. If you need to, or if you want to keep the car for, let's say, 250,000 miles or 300,000 miles and beyond, he said you're going to follow his method because you will keep the engine clean, will make it keep on running it the best possible, and you'll last even beyond that. So if you want to keep the car for a few 100,000 miles, many more years to come, his advice is to buy the cheapest engine oil possible and change every 3,000 miles.
Okay, I'll stop right there. 3,000 miles. Now you'll go on to say, I'm hearing 2,000. And it depends on how much you drive your car. If you daily your car, I would definitely follow this. I know it's expensive. But it comes down to, if we have EVs coming in and taking over, and even if internal combustion engines make a comeback, it's going to take a long time to get that back in circulation. So in order for the EVs to die off and the ICE motors to come back into play, well, that's going to take some time. And this might be the last hurrah of what we have. So I'm definitely taking this into consideration, and I'm definitely taking this very, very seriously. So I got to break it up just so I don't get copyright struck, but let's keep going here.
But you don't have to change the oil filter,
Yes.
right?
So that is for one time, change, not the.
So engine oil filter, once every 2 engine oil, so that will save you a little bit of money. But that's at the top of the advice if you want to maximize durability and to keep the car for as long as possible. But of course, I asked them if you only want to keep the car for 5 or 6 or maybe even 10 years, up to maybe 100,000 miles. Obviously, it doesn't matter so much because you're going to sell the car. In that case, you can increase it by 30% to 40% of the duration. It would.
So here's the thing is, and they're raising up a good point, is if you're going to intend to keep this car for a long, long time, and I know a lot of my subscribers that have written into me saying, I'm going to keep this car as long as I can until it rusts in 2. I'm going to pass this on through generations. I want to keep this, and I want to make this be my last car. This really, really makes sense to me, is what I'm saying.
It wouldn't matter too much because you're not keeping it anyway. So I think Takumi-san's advice, and he's the person who's able to detect tiny microns difference in the engine build. And he said the reason why it's so important is that engine oil breaks down. The whole idea of engine oil is to take contaminants away and to protect the components. And so when you keep on using the engine, even if it's a short distance or not, it will begin to wear out and engine will degrade. So the engine oil will degrade. And he said even if you don't drive that often, engine oil will break down through contamination and also because it's subject to air and exposure.
Boom. That's a massive, massive, massive part of this video entirely. And this was the turning point in my mind where I'm like, oh my God. They're right. There's so many cracks and crevices and openings to that engine where oxygen can get in and just break down that oil and degrades. So how do you combat that? put new oil in. This entirely makes sense to me because, why do you think it is that, whenever you open up a quart of oil, it's got that little aluminum seal on top? So I did look it up, and I did find another site that kind of explained why. So it did, and I will add it to the stream right here. It says, if you look at the top right by the picture there, it says oxidation, and oxidation is the breakdown. Oxidation is the reaction of oil molecules with oxygen molecules. It can lead to an increase in viscosity and adaptive depletion, and breakdown in the base oil can result. That's big. That's huge. I'll finish it. It says, once an oil starts to oxidize, you may see an increase in the acid number. Now, I don't check the acidity for my oil. I kind of figure if I change it often enough, what's the point? In addition, rust and corrosion can form on equipment due to oxidation. I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying that word today, but that's big. That's huge. So I'll reference that chart back. But once you break that little aluminum seal on that quart of oil, you're on the clock. I'm finding this to be absolutely entirely true. So let's keep going. I'll finish up the video here. I might have to break it up just in case for copyright claims, but let's see what they got to say here.
Exposure to the environment will make it break down. So, I know that many of you guys were complaining that that's just not practical to change that often, but it comes down to how long you want to keep the car for. Do you want to keep it for 200, 300,000 miles, 10, 20, 30 years down the road? Buy the cheapest engine oil, he said. Change every 3,000 miles, maybe a little bit longer, maybe 4,000 miles, maybe even okay. And it will last you forever. Engine will last forever. Change the oil filter every 2 engine oil, and that's going to be fine. And then from there, you scale down or up. You want to keep a car for 500,000 miles, maybe you have to change a little bit more often. But if you only want to keep the car for 100,000 miles, maybe you can double that and only change 5,000 or 6,000 miles. And obviously, if you're only leasing a car for 2 years or 3 years short lease, and you're going to return the car, who cares? Just follow the manufacturer's recommended engine oil schedule, because it wouldn't matter too much. You're not keeping anyway. So those are some of the things that Tommy-san has told me. Anything else you want to add? I also asked him a few other questions, such as the type of engine oil, synthetic versus normal oil. And he said, really, engine oils are very good these days. You don't have to worry too much, but he recommends Castrol as a brand. We're not sponsored by Castrol, by the way. But he said they make the best engine oil for the money. And he said it's more.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. There's cheaper oils than Castrol to be had out there, and I would debate that part. But
important to buy cheap engine oil and change more often than to buy expensive oil and change less often. So if you want to take the contaminants away from the engine components, and also to prevent degradation of engine oil. So he said he'd rather see you guys buy the cheapest oil, change every 3,000 to 4,000 miles, than to buy the expensive oil and change less often. Also, he said, yes, synthetic oils are better than normal engine oils, but he said the difference is not as much as you think, especially if you're going to change more often anyway. So he'd rather see you do the cheaper.
So I will say this, that they got to talk about the contaminants. And that's how these manufacturers here, and I'll just go ahead, FaceTime. So that's how these manufacturers decide the weight of the oil needed. These people, when they run tests through these labs, they know, like, every oil will flow through an engine. You pour a bottle of oil in and it'll flow through there. Now, is it the best? Is it the specific weight that's going to match the mesh tolerances of the oil pump? Probably not. But they know exactly what weight of oil suspends the contaminants and keeps them suspended long enough to be caught in the oil filter in that engine. So they know the flow rate of every, the oil weight that is to be the perfect match or the best closest match as far as like what you can buy off the shelf to suspend carry the contaminants to be caught long enough to be removed from the system in order to create more pollutants and just keep the system going around and around and around. I think I'll go ahead and I will let them finish what they were going to say, and then I'm going to add a few things on top.
Cheaper regular oil, change more often than to buy expensive oil like synthetic oil and change much less often. So I hope that's helpful to you guys. You said the filter doesn't matter too much. Just make sure that you're using something approved. Yeah, so you can just use a cheap filter as well, because you're going to start changing them every so often anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then finally, really his recommendation is that if you take care of the engine by engine oil, then it will last a very, very long time. And so that means also changing the viscosity of the engine oil from season to season, depending on where you live in the world. If the climate change is pretty drastic from winter to summer, then you have to buy different engine oil viscosity as well. So
well, while they're talking there, I will say the engine viscosity, that's going to be a big deal, because that was kind of where I went with in my mind, I went with the premium, the best you could get, 0W40. And I was like, well, it's going to protect in the summer, but yet still be thin enough to flow in the winter. And I kind of agree with this theory a whole lot more, because I'm going to have a chance to run a thicker viscosity in the summer and a thinner viscosity in the winter. So it says even in the manual that you are allowed to run 5W30. I believe even you can run racing oil or something if you have a track day coming up or something, up to like 5 hours or whatever. But this is big because you're able to get different viscosities for different types of protection, and it'll be nice, fresh, clean oil throughout the year, weight specific for the season. Now, I know a lot of you and a lot of people on this channel don't drive their Camaro in the winter or car, but I do, and this is going to be a very good approach. Is it more expensive? I don't know, maybe, because I just I went, and I think to change the oil in the Camaro using AMS oil, it was like 160, 170 bucks. So I just went and purchased oil, and I found Walmart.com. They have a 12, like the entire box. It's like wine in a box. But the whole box is a 12 quart capacity. It's just a giant bag, and 65 bucks. So saved 100 bucks. It's literally less than half. Now the filter part, they're saying use a cheap filter. I don't agree with. You want a back drain valve in your oil filter, and you want enough pleats. You want enough pleats, I should say, to not hindrance the flow rate. So you want the highest flow rate you can get. But I do agree that if you're going to be changing it every 2,000 to 3,000, which I'm thinking, at least mid-grade filter, at least. You want a back drain valve with a spring in it, not just a stamped steel. You want a good back drain valve and enough pleats to actually catch all the contaminants without hindrance the flow rate. So keep that in mind. That's kind of my thoughts. Kind of doing my due diligence. Obviously you're entitled to do whatever you want, make your own decisions, whatever you think is best, but you're going to be talking like $1, $2, maybe. My thoughts on the synthetic versus conventional. Synthetic, anybody that knows, if you ever ran synthetic oil in an older motor, especially like right around the valve covers where it has fewer bolts holding that cork valve cover gasket on, like an old Chevy 350 or whatever, they'll notice that synthetic oil will leak out. It's simply because it's made out of smaller particles. And I will say this, it's kind of now this is just stock footage, but I'll add this in here. But if you look at this molecule, you'll see what they're talking about is smaller pieces, smaller particles. So now what they're saying as far as like the carbon and absorbing the carbon, I don't know if you can see my mouse. If you can't, I'm going to add arrows in, but this is what the carbon sticks to, and this is what turns the oil black. So the carbon sticks to these molecules, and the theory goes is when they're smaller, you actually increase the surface area to where it absorbs more carbon. So as far as increasing the longevity of or a longer duration of time, miles, whatever, however you want to call it. It's just how much carbon can it absorb. But the fact is, if the base oil is broken down, you really don't have that much protection. It just makes way more sense to have fresh, clean oil in there. I'll add this in. Engine detergent is detergent oils have enhanced additive packages, blending them in, prevent rust, break down engine oil sludge, stabilize acids, and prolong oil life. Well, I mean, obviously we're not really all that concerned about oil life, but if we're going to be changing it frequently, this stuff's really not going to have that much time to be affected by any acidity or whatever. That's great. I think that this is going to be, it's a little bit more expensive. It's a little bit more inconvenient, but I wholeheartedly believe that this is the way to go. As far as like film strength, that's another thing that I'm gonna be concerned with as far as like breaking down. Film strength is, you know, just being able to have that layer, that protection of layer whenever two mating surfaces come together, as far as like not being able to break through and penetrate that oil and still have that protective property to lubricate. Now I'm gonna leave a link to all these videos that I have and talked about in this video. I'm going to leave a link to those because I think it's important for you guys to do your own research. Before we wrap up here, I'm going to add these kind of points that I feel are important to talk about before I wrap this up here. I'll add this into the stream and we'll finish this up here. So it says, other than oxidation, thermal breakdown, the temperature of lubricant should be the primary concern. Besides separating moving parts within a piece of machinery, a lubricant must also dissipate heat. This means that the lubricant can and will be heated above its recommended stable temperature. I don't know that word. I'm sorry. This is new to me. I've never seen that word before. Arrhenius rate rule for temperature states that every 18 degrees or 10 degrees Celsius, the chemical reaction doubles. In other words, for every 18 degrees Fahrenheit of your oil, the life of your oil is cut in half. So are they saying like for every 18 degrees above the stable state? Or stable temperature? Interesting, did not know that. Keeping the oil as cool as possible when in use will extend its life and reduce the reaction of thermal breakdown. Running like a colder thermostat, using an additive in your coolant to maybe do everything you can to decrease the just the internal temperatures of the engine. Anything to get heat out of the engine bay. This is a new term to me, is called a microdieseling, also known as pressure-induced thermal breakdown degradation. Microdieseling is a process in which an air bubble transitions from a low-pressure region into a system to a high-pressure zone. This is very common in hydraulic system. Microdieseling results in man, I'm feeling stupid here. Adiabatic, you'll be able to read that. Compression. I'll have to look that up later, but it says compression of the air bubble within the oil, which then cooks the surrounding oil molecules. Thermal breakdown, causing instant oxidation of those molecules. Not good. Also, this is, for those of you that have been doing like I've been doing, as far as like buying quality, expensive oil and then running it longer, additive depletion. And this is going to be just wearing out detergents, stripping out, any kind of like zinc additives, any kind of additives. Yeah. Most additive packaged in oil are designed to be sacrificial and used up during the life of the oil. Now, here's my part is, okay, well, if you're going that far out and that long out, how do you know when it's used up? There's no really way to test unless you take a sample of it, send it off to a lab, wait for the results to come back, and then, by that time it could be too late. Utilizing oil analysis to monitor, additive levels is important, not only to assess the health of the lubricant, but also to provide clues as to what is causing the depletion of the additives. If you're changing it frequently enough, you're not gonna have to worry about this because it's on borrowed time. So you just, you know what I'm saying? Contamination, this is also another big one. Contamination such as dirt, water, air, etc. can greatly influence the rate of lubricant degradation. Yeah. Dirt containing fine medical particles can be a catalyst that speeds up degradation process of your lubricant, or mating surfaces, or metal to metal. I mean, there's this, when you're running something, and now it makes sense to me, and I'm connecting the dots, like I said, when you're running something that long, that hard, just your window of exposure for all this crap to be happening is big. It's a lot bigger. So just constantly getting fresh oil in there, I believe it's going to be my new approach to everything. I'll finish it up by saying air and water can provide a source of oxygen that reacts with the oil and leads to oxidation of the lubricant. Here again, oil analysis can be helpful in monitoring your lubricant's contamination levels. But I will say this, if you're changing it frequently enough, you ain't got to worry about all that. So this is going to be my new theory, and this is going to be my new approach. Is it going to be more of a hassle? Yes. Is it going to be more expensive? Maybe a little bit, but I don't know. I'll keep you guys in the loop. I'm going to go every 2,000 miles. Every 2,000 miles because I don't daily drive my car. So it just being able to sit in the garage is kind of enough to make me question. So I'm hoping that this is going to be the last LT4. The engine itself is like $15,000-$20,000. So I think that this is cheap insurance and it's just the best approach to go. So other than that, I'm going to leave you guys. Have a good day. I hope you're having an awesome day. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video on your guys' way out, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Until then, take care. We'll see you. Bye.